Welcome alumni and friends of UNB's Faculty of Nursing. My name is Michelle McNeil. I'm the Executive Director of the Associated Alumni, and it is my great pleasure to be hosting you today. We join you today from the unsurrendered and unceded ancestral homelands of Wolastoqiyik and Mi'kmaq people. The river that runs by our campus is known as Wolastoq, along which live Wolastoqiyik, the people of the beautiful and bountiful river. The lands of the Wabanaki, the people of the Dawn, have been recognized in a series of peace and friendship treaties which establish an ongoing relationship of peace, friendship, and mutual respect between equal nations. And we are so grateful to be able to join you today from this beautiful campus and this beautiful territory. Wherever you're joining us from today, thank you, Waliwan. We're very excited to have you today here with us today to join in a conversation about the Faculty of Nursing, where it's come over the last several decades, how it's changed, how it's remained the same, and a little bit about where we might be going in the future. And we're really pleased to have three guests with us today. We have a faculty member, a student, and an alumna joining us, and I'm going to introduce them now. So to start, Beverly Gaudet is a senior teaching associate in the faculty, and she's also a proud UNB alumna. She worked at pediatric hospitals in Halifax and Toronto after graduation, where she preceptored many nursing students, and that's where she discovered her interest in teaching. Bev landed in Fredericton and began her role at UNB as a clinical instructor in pediatrics. Her position recently evolved to include the role of student navigator and academic advisor, and she enjoys being surrounded by young minds every day at work. Their energy and enthusiasm are contagious, and she finds their quest for creativity and innovation admirable. So I can attest to the idea that working in a university community is incredibly rewarding for those reasons. She gets to be a spectator as students engineer themselves into leaders of change, impacting patients, families, and our communities. And I think that's such an apt way to describe the work that our nursing students do. Thank you so much for being with us today, Bev.
Thank you.
And representing our alumni today, we have Karen Lake, who's a Bachelor of Nursing grad from 1989. Sorry, I gave you 10 extra years there. And she proudly works as a professional caregiving consultant and care navigator. Such an interesting role. I can't wait to hear a bit more about it. She was called to offer this service to families after working in home health care for more than 20 years. And so Karen has seen the emotional struggles that families go through when they're being caregivers to their family members and trying to balance that with the other pressures in life, whether that's children, career, retirement, or illness. And gathering her years of expertise and experience together, she's carefully crafted comprehensive programs that are tailored to meet each family's specific needs. Karen has a special passion for supporting, guiding, and directing caregivers to be the best caregiver they can be to their family member. To help them make informed choices, to be prepared to carefully navigate the complex issues that come with being a caregiver. So thank you so much for being with us today, Karen.
Thanks for having me.
And representing our students today, we have Brooke Billings. Brooke is a recent graduate. We say representing our students, but welcome to the alumni family. Brooke earned her Bachelor of Nursing degree in 2021. And throughout her nursing program, she's worked at the Fredericton Community Downtown Health Clinic and continues to work there as a graduate nurse as well. Her passion is working alongside people who are underrepresented in our community to help them reach their goals and have access to health care that is based on equity and social justice. And it was really inspiring to me to read that about why you do what you do. So thank you for being with us today, Brooke.
Thanks for having me.
So now that we know a little bit more about each other, I thought we'd start with a bit of a conversation, and we're going to ask Karen first to reflect a bit on your time as a student, and then the how and why of staying connected to UNB since graduation.
Mm-hmm. I had a great experience at UNB. I came right after high school and entered into the faculty, and I also lived in residence, and many of my classmates were also in residence. And there's just something about that community that draws you together. Mm. And we were always a fairly small group. So it wasn't like there were hundreds of students that were in our nursing classes. And it was just a great community at the time. We really helped each other. We supported each other. I feel like we had a good balance of study and fun. So we really enjoyed the university experience. And I was reflecting as well with Diane that we still stay connected, many of us. And it's so great to see people in the community. I was recently doing a contract at MBCC only to discover that one of my classmates was one of the instructors there. So we had this great reunion in the hallway. And we stay in touch. We reunion when we can. Sometimes it's balanced around when former alumni are back in town from the furthest distance. If they can be here, then we all gather from wherever we are. And we've always stayed connected. And I find I actually feel younger when I come to campus. It doesn't make me feel old. It makes me go right back to when I was 23. Yeah. So I love coming to campus.
I think that's one of the reasons I've never left.
Yeah.
Feeling young. I really liked hearing you reflect on how the relationships have maintained not just personally but professionally. And I can attest to that as well. You know, the friendships are still there and they're still just as close as when I lived in residence and went to my classes. But the professional benefits that come from it of meeting your colleagues after you've graduated is also also fantastic. Which residence did you live in?
I lived in Lady Dunn.
Lady Dunn, there you go. The session right before this, we had 2 Lady Dunn women with us.
Yeah.
And so, Brooke, listening to Karen reflect on her time as a student, does that resonate with you at all? Does it still feel the same in the faculty?
Yeah, for sure. Like over the past 4 years, we kind of grew as a family, so close to each other, and even now we have a group chat and we're graduating. We've kind of all gone like our separate ways, but as we write the NCLEX, everyone's kind of posting the results and studying and how they feel about it and hoping to connect, and we talk about it. So
That's great to hear that it's still
very similar.
Things have changed, and we're going to talk about that a bit, but really the DNA, the common thread that runs through the faculty is still that one of support and family and community. That's great to hear. So Bev, when we were introducing Brooke, we were talking about the Fredericton Downtown Health Clinic, and it's an incredible clinic. Every time I hear about it, I learn more. But wondering if you can tell our alumni watching a little bit about the clinic in case they don't know about it, and also how that's impacted both teaching and research in the faculty.
Sure, thanks. So it overwhelms me, to be honest, to even think about the Downtown Health Clinic, and overwhelms me in a positive way. I have never been in a place where the answer is never no. There's no problem too big or too small. There's always a challenge to be met, but there's always a team working together to meet the needs of that challenge and to achieve positive outcomes in those challenges. People aren't turned away, people aren't shamed, people aren't made to feel bad for whatever may be going on in their life. And that's, could be an individual level, but it's also really a population level and community level as well. So I think the biggest things we've learned in terms of research and teaching is and the research that comes from there directly impacts our teaching every day. And that is flexibility and adaptability and partnerships. And sometimes it doesn't take big, huge solutions, right? Sometimes it's sticking with something simple, but it takes time to listen to be able to help people achieve what they need to. So those pieces alone get threaded right back to our classroom, to our labs, to our simulations. And I think we all work hard at bringing those pieces into what we do each and every day. And I think the research has grown to really almost put, I almost feel like it's wrapping their arms around the province to see what is going on in our communities. Yeah. What's happening, what do our people need, what do our people want? And our researchers have just been so authentic in ensuring that happens.
It's a great word, the authenticity. So Brooke, you've been working at the clinic, and so it's been a big part of your experience as a student, I imagine. Anything that you wanted to add there from a perspective of a student?
Yeah, sure. So I've worked there as a student nurse over the past 2 years, and recently as a registered nurse, I accepted a casual position there. And really, it's just changed my whole outlook on like what nursing is and the definition of nursing, and who I want to be as a nurse, really. I always kind of thought nurses were in healthcare, it's hospital. That's what nursing was in my head until I worked there. And it's really the most complex and illest people are in the community. Yeah. Really is what I've got to see.
So for the alumni watching that don't know much about the clinic, it's not nursing in the hospital. So what is it?
it's really just making connections with people and accepting them for who they are, and understanding, really just listening and loving them and accepting where they've came from and the effects that kind of why they are today. And it comes back from social determinants of health and trauma and adverse childhood experiences. And kind of the more I see that, and that you can see why everyone is the way they are today, and being able to make that connection. And
what an incredible learning experience. Thank you for the work that you've been doing there. So Bev, we talked a bit about the teaching and the research side of it, but how have projects like this, or maybe other community-based projects that the faculty does, how do they impact the community?
It's a little bit hard to go, how does that impact the community? Because the community impacts us so much. Really, we're learning and growing from the community. But when we think of community, there's so many different ways to do that. So one piece of it is partnerships with community organizations, and the team at the Community Health Clinic engage community organizations, and everybody seems to be, how can I help? What can I do? And how can we contribute? So I think that, the knowledge and experiences gained from what happens at the clinic really help us to better understand, appreciate, and articulate the healthcare experience for people, and how people experience health, similar to what Brooke was suggesting, that, I know how I experience health, but I don't know how you do. And so these experiences at the clinic, and really, Karen, the work that you're doing too, is very similar to that, right? It's we need to learn how people experience health and healthcare. Yeah. So I think the projects and programs coming out of the clinic really help us do that.
At the university, we've been really focused for a while now, but particularly in the last little while, on experiential education for students. And I know that has always been something that nursing has done with clinical placements and other things, but I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how, as a faculty, you work to engage students in experiential education, and we've talked about the clinic, but are there other ways where people are engaging in the community?
So I think that this has been maybe a bit of my baby, so I might be a bit biased. And I'll be honest, one of the reasons that I reached out to Brooke, so I met Brooke in her winter term of her first year, and Brooke is intrinsically motivated to become engaged. And she was a little bit of my own research project, although ethically she doesn't know that, so I apologize. I didn't ever get her consent, but I watched her over 4 years. And Brooke would take advantage of opportunities that presented themselves, or that she just went and looked for on her own. And I was just always, I always admired how much she got from doing that. And so I've tried to sort of build engagement for or with people like Brooke that are intrinsically motivated, but also for those who maybe not so much. And so how do I bring opportunities and possibilities to them? So we know that students who are engaged persist more. We know that their academic achievements, their personal development tends to be higher. We know that they reflect more positively on their experience and their overall time and learning and experience. And we know that university is a time of both personal and academic development, right? It's Karen, you talked about your own reflections. Mine are very similar. Residents taught me a whole lot about life, much to my mom's chagrin when I went to a co-ed residence. But anyway, I digress. So how do we help those students who may be less intrinsically motivated? And so experiential learning, engaging with, so we have a Center for Experiential Learning now. So we're structured in that we have clinical experiences integrated throughout the whole program. But there's more than that. There's more we can be doing than that. So just an example, I had a student in fall term last year ask me about research. She was really interested in research, and so I got her connected with one of our faculty members in Moncton. And she's been successful in landing a grant for summer job this summer, working on a research project. That will be transformative for her, right? So the more we interact with students to hear those interests and desires, and the more we create a platform for them to be able to share their desires and their goals, then the more we can meet that and make that happen. So Brooke was also a peer mentor throughout her 3 years, I guess, after first year. And so the mentorship that Brooke has provided to people, several occasions, emailed Brooke, would you mind reaching out to this student? Would you mind setting up a session on this? Would you mind helping out with this? Could you run this group in orientation day? Or she never said no to me, luckily. But that's another way. So having mentors like Brooke gets students excited.
Yeah.
And then they want to become engaged, and they want to become part of that learning and those experiences to grow.
Yeah. It sounds very similar to when you were describing the approach in the community health clinic. So it's easy to see how it sort of, the idea of listening and being open to what people need and want is something that's in the DNA of the faculty for sure.
Yeah.
If I could add too, Michelle, I was going to say, listening to Bev, it's so exciting to hear it being introduced at such an early level, I'll say, to know that there's just this world of opportunity as a nurse. Because gone are the days when nurses are only working in clinic or in hospital and wearing scrubs, and I don't even know if they wear caps anymore, but yeah, there's just so many different options that are available now. So it's so good to hear, and it's encouraging to hear that those kinds of opportunities are being introduced at a really young age, at an early stage, if you will, because there's so much opportunity for nurses.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I just also add, because that made me think about our Indigenous nursing program as well as our international student body. And so those are a couple other areas so we sort of have an unofficial advising team, I guess, but the director of our Indigenous nursing program, we work really closely together to ensure that there's more integration, better integration, more opportunity for interaction for students and faculty and staff to be able to have conversations, to be able to share ideas, to be able to share diverse values and beliefs. We don't all have the same beliefs related to health and wellness or illness. So, those possibilities too are tremendous and ones we need to take advantage of.
Yeah. I was reading, I'm in a privileged position where I get to hear all about the great things our alumni are doing when they leave us. And I was reading about one of a nursing alumna who also used to work in the faculty, about the recent changes that she was able to affect. And I know it was after many, many years of hard work where Indigenous medicines are now going to be made available in hospitals and people there to support Indigenous people so that they feel comfortable in the space. And it's just another one of those examples of, there are so many different perspectives that we don't always think of. So I was really proud of her when I read that. That was Shelley. That. Yeah, we all love Shelley.
Yes, we do.
Shout out to Shelley.
Yeah.
So Karen, one of the reasons why we invited you to be here today was to be here on behalf of our alumni who couldn't be here. And so we know that we had some questions submitted, and I'm wondering if you wanted to ask some of those of Brooke now.
Sure. Yeah. Brooke, why did you choose UNB for your studies?
So I remember coming out of high school and I applied to many universities. I had no idea where I wanted to go. And then it came down that I had to make a choice. And I remember sitting at the kitchen table trying to do a pros and cons list of all different universities, and I had to figure out what was important to me and what I need to have a positive learning experience and what I wanted from a nursing degree. And it really came down to three things. Early clinical experience in first year, which many universities don't offer, and that was kind of the biggest motivator to choose UNB. And then the preceptorship experience of the 16 weeks at the end. That's full-time, concentrated.
I remember those.
Yeah, I just finished mine a month ago.
I think ours was only 6 weeks, though.
Maybe, yeah.
But I'm much older than you.
And the third thing is just a small class size that I can now say ended up being like a family, really.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I think in our graduating class it was like 42 or something, so close.
Love that.
But yeah, those are 3 things that were unique to UNB, and that's why I chose here, and very happy that I did.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I remember my own experience, and this was back, I'm not
years ago.
ashamed to say 1985 when I graduated from high school. And I remember someone saying, why would you go anywhere else when there's an excellent university offering the program pretty much in your backyard?
Yeah.
And I thought, that's right. And I never changed my mind.
Yeah, exactly.
How has your experience at the Downtown Community Health Clinic impacted you?
Kind of already touched on this a little bit, but it's, like I said, it's really changed who I want to be as a nurse. And what nursing means to me and what values are important to me. And really every day now that I go to work, and I think I carry that with me. I think it's completely changed who I am, and I'm so grateful for that experience.
That's amazing.
Yeah. I feel very fortunate to be there and still be there today. Yeah.
Do you feel prepared for a career in nursing?
I don't know if prepared's the right word for nursing. I don't know if prepared's the right word, but I feel confident in what I know and what I don't know. And I think that's really what it comes down to, is being able to differentiate between and being able to know what you don't know and to know how to seek answers and to ask for help when you need. And therefore, I feel very prepared to provide safe, excellent nursing care.
And are you hoping to stay in practice in New Brunswick? I sure hope so.
So I did accept a full-time position here in the emergency department in Fredericton. So I started there a couple weeks ago, and I'm a casual at the Downtown Community Health Center as well.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Yes.
I didn't quite hear. Did you say in the emergency department, like
Yeah.
the deck?
Yeah.
Oh, I had to take my husband there last week after a little accident.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
Thank you if you helped him. I know a number of nurses up in the emergency department, so it's a good team for you to be part of.
That's where I completed my preceptorship, so I ended up staying there.
So it felt a bit like home then.
Exactly, yeah.
Karen, did you have any questions for Bev from our alumni that you wanted to ask?
I do.
Yep.
How have the faculty's course offerings changed since the earlier years? Maybe during my time. And how do you feel they should change in the future?
So you likely have as fond of memories of anatomy as I do. And Brooke, probably. So you'll notice, the science of nursing really doesn't change a whole lot. So those courses, or science courses, certainly would be similar to what we would have gone through. Obviously, disease processes and the understanding of body systems evolves, and so that would show up in the classroom. And we collaborate really closely with our science faculty, which is great. We have a really good working relationship, and so there's lots of back and forth with what those courses can look like. And we do that on a yearly basis, so that's super helpful. What really changes, though, is the ebb and flow of what's happening, healthcare needs in our province, really. Locally, probably nationally and internationally. What are we seeing people live with, and how are they living with it? So you'll see more integration of that sort of part of nursing. Change over time. So one really important example I'll highlight is when Brooke would have gone through, we had an Indigenous Perspectives course that would have been an elective. And would have been offered, and some would have taken the opportunity, but now we've made that a mandatory course, and they'll do that right away in first year, in fall term. So, we really struggled with and played with where to fit it in. Are they ready for it in first year? Is it better when they're in third or fourth, when, their thinking is more developed? But really, I think it sits nicely in first year, and it's a great way to, let's get us all started and situate us in, thinking about equitable health, equitable policies and practices, and why wait? So that's one thing that has evolved for us. Focus on mental health and mental illness. We know that body of knowledge is growing and expanding. We're all, learning better, I'd say. So that specialty area has its own course as well as its own clinical course. So, which it would have when we went through too. But I think, again, just our knowledge and understanding around that has evolved. As well as that content area would be threaded throughout the whole program. Elder care, senior care, that would be integrated throughout. In fact, we just finished curriculum days early this week. So lots of discussion about how do we do that better. What else can I tell you? Yeah, I think in meeting population health needs, and as it relates first and foremost to our province, and thinking about the equitable aspects of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I feel like my answers are really long.
No, they're fantastic. It's interesting to hear. Brooke, I have a question for you that we didn't tell you about ahead of time, but I think that you'll be able to answer it. I was listening to Bev speak, and I was thinking about. I am friends with someone in the faculty who runs the clinical program, and this past year with COVID-19, I'm just wondering if you can talk a little bit about, because for the nursing students, that would have been a totally different experience from some of our other students when they had to switch with COVID-19. Can you just talk a little bit about how that impacted your experience as a student? I think it probably was a pretty significant impact for you. So
yeah, I was fortunate enough that kind of later on in my degree, especially second semester of fourth year, we just have our preceptorship in one online course. So in terms of that, it wasn't affected much. We were able to go in, complete our preceptorship. We were allowed to go. So that wasn't affected. And even in kind of the start of fourth year, there was certain, I think it was third and fourth year students were allowed to stay in the hospital. I think kind of with the goal that we wouldn't get behind on graduating and that we'd graduate on time to be able to help with the pandemic and do our part. So in terms of clinical, I wasn't set behind at all, which I was very fortunate. So I know we were scared for a little bit that maybe we won't graduate in April, but
Well, even just hearing your response from that perspective, what I meant was that it would have been, I would have thought a very difficult time for a student to go into the clinical placement, but just hearing that you're like, no, it was fine, we're clinical, I think it just speaks to your own strength and resilience and that of your classmates. Because I was more thinking like, oh my goodness, we were all safe at home and you were out in the hospitals during the pandemic helping, so. Yeah.
If you don't mind, Brooke, I'll just speak to that. Yes, there have been challenges that way. And our clinical strategist team have worked really hard with our clinical partners. And so, we can sort of, inform students that it is safe. And we are so fortunate in New Brunswick that it has been relatively safe. But there's still some anxieties around that, right? And so it really brought up the opportunity to discuss the ethical responsibilities of nurses and how do we put ourselves all of a sudden at risk to go to work each day. So several classes have had conversations, bigger conversations about that. And I don't know, Brooke, not so much your year.
No.
Probably the earlier years may struggled with that a little bit more.
Yeah, I just remember thinking that when we were, as I said, when I was safe at home, thinking that our students were out there working and helping. So thank you to you and your colleagues for that work. Karen, are there any, I think there's a few more questions for Bev from our alumni.
Yeah, I was curious how many students are currently enrolled and what's been the enrollment trend in the past few years?
So we, in our years, Karen, we would have seen consistent numbers for many, many years. I think 80 were admitted each year for a long time. Then we had the Advanced Standing Program, which were a group of students with university experience already that got added to the third year of the program. And so that brought our numbers well over 100 for a period of time. And then, things happen and funding and so on and so forth. Our numbers went way down. And so Brooke alluded to her class only being in the 40s. So there was a period of years where our numbers were really low. So we'll see the last of those low numbers this the fourth year entering this fall. I think their class is in the 50s. And then the third year and behind them are all 77 would be admitted. And we have some really exciting news starting this fall. We have an LPN pathway program that started. So last year they would have spent doing their prerequisite courses, and they'll join our third year of our program in Fredericton this fall. So there's 21 of them, and next year that number will jump to 48.
That's awesome.
So 77 plus 21, 98 this fall in that third year class, and then add 48 next year. So our numbers are growing.
That's good.
Our class in the advanced standing program, which moved to Moncton a number of years ago, they've grown as well, and so they'll be accepting and have been accepting in the high 40s, around 49. So yeah, we're seeing things moving in the right direction.
That's great to hear. Yeah, as a New Brunswicker, that's great to hear.
I think Bev has touched on opening up more seats. I think you've spoken to that, and you've certainly spoken about inclusivity. I've heard that as well. Has the program been keeping up with real-world training requirements so graduates feel well prepared going into clinical settings, do you think?
It's a funny profession in that I don't know that any of us ever felt prepared. I know I certainly didn't.
Prepared's not the right word.
It's so big, right? But I think Brooke highlighted the most important point, and that is knowing what you know and knowing what you don't know, and feeling safe to ask questions.
Yeah.
And so the nurses in practice providing great supports and mentorship to new grads is important. So, again, our clinical strategist team, so I'm probably using some new language from when you and I were students. So that's a dedicated pair in the faculty that work really closely with healthcare organizations, our hospitals, community organizations to ensure our learning experiences are meeting their needs, but also meeting our learning needs. So, and what's ever changing, right? The nursing profession and practice changes all the time. And so we need to keep up with that. So the more we integrate ourselves into those practice settings, the better able we are to prepare our students. So Brooke's really the best person to answer that question. But I think knowing it's okay to ask questions. And I've practiced for many, many years. I don't know it all, Karen, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I'm still asking
learning
a lot.
still.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. But it's being humble and it's being confident enough to be able to do that. So we certainly we have our regulating body in New Brunswick that there's standards to meet. We have accreditation body that there's expectations to meet. So, provincial expectations as well as in terms of the system. But overall, it's what do our New Brunswickers need.
So Karen, I'm interested in hearing a little bit from you. We touched on it when I was introducing you, but just a little bit about your own path to what you're doing now, because I found it incredibly interesting when I was reading what you're doing now. Can you just talk a little bit about how you got to where you are now, what led you down that path, and a bit about what you experience in your day-to-day now?
Sure. I've told this story so many times. I guess we all have a story. And when Brooke was talking about feeling prepared, the word that came to me was foundation. I really feel that what UNB provided me and all of my colleagues was very foundational learning, a really good, solid base to go out into the world. And I don't know, I just think that we were bold enough and we were brave enough to just kind of go out there and do it. Like when Brooke said she's working in Emerge, I'm thinking, wow, because that might not typically be the path for a new grad.
Yeah.
We might maybe dabble in a few areas, and that's what I did. The other thing I heard was how she feels very at home at the community health clinic. And I think we sometimes refer to that as our niche. Nurses are always looking to find their niche. And to me, that's what you're passionate about, right? And so heading out myself as a new grad and being really bold and brave, I ventured down that same path. I went a little further. I went to the southern U.S. and decided to start my career there. which was great. And I went with 2 other UNB grads, and that's where I started my career. But yeah, I feel like there's just this braveness and boldness that we seem to have, and almost a little fearless. And I don't know, they don't teach that in a course, but I think we just, and maybe because we had the connection of each other too.
The support.
Yeah, and so I found myself, to use the word, dabbling in a few different areas, and I think most nurses experience that. You know, they may start off in pediatrics, and then they might go into maternity, or they might, you know, in my own experience, I was on heavy medical units, I was on surgical units, I was in the burn unit, and then I started into home health, and once I started in the community, I just never went back. And of course, like you introduced me, Michelle, it's really seeing families from a really personal perspective. I don't think there's more personal a place than your own home. And I was really seeing and sensing the struggles that family members were having in trying to support their aging parents, their unwell spouse, maybe a child. And it just led me into offering my own service. And yeah, I love it. And I love that there's so much opportunity for nurses in that way.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think doing that work here in New Brunswick, it's needed everywhere. But when we talk about our own aging population, and I know it's more than just aging parents, but
Right.
I mean, I just think that it's such an incredible service to the community. So yeah.
Thank you.
So thank you for that. We had when you were talking about fearless, it reminded me of, we had our former president used to talk about UNB being an entrepreneurial university, and he and people sometimes would get upset with him because it would leave faculties out. And I remember him saying, no, it's everywhere. And he was talking about the Farrington Downtown Community Health Clinic and about how sort of that's like the ultimate entrepreneurial, activity. And he described the nurses that he encountered when he was asking questions about it kind of as like, I don't know why you're asking me these questions. None of those challenges matter. We're just going to do it. And just listening to you guys talk about this makes me think of that conversation, that fearlessness, and that those are problems we'll figure out, but we're going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
So really, really inspiring to hear that it sort of runs through many of our nursing grads and our nursing faculty members.
I'm glad you I never thought of it that way.
Yeah.
But and the community health clinic is a prime example. When I think of our nursing colleagues that started that, they were fearless.
Yeah.
I love it. That's so, that's good.
A new slogan coming for the Faculty of Nursing, thanks to Karen.
Yeah, that's right.
Joan Kingston's the definition of fearless.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
isn't she?
yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing.
Well, I could talk to the three of you for the rest of the day, but I think we're going to wrap up soon. Before we wrap up, I did want to ask if each of you could sort of reflect on a little bit about what the best part of UNB has been for you. I think I know based on the conversations we've just had, but you might surprise me. Maybe we'll start with Karen. You could just tell us about the best part of being a part of the UNB family to you.
Well, I'm so distracted by the words that are over Bev's head, because so many of them on that banner really reflect my own experience. So whoever did that was right on. Like the connection we've talked about, like those early relationships with your your co-students became lifelong friends. And we still connect today. I connected with them today before I came down here. Whenever I'm on campus, I always send my friends, close friends, pictures or what's happening at UNB and keeping them included even though they live far away. The engagement goes without saying, succeeding, celebrating. I see networking, mentor. We've talked about
Support,
that today. Yeah, it's all so true, and so many of those things are present in my life, and a lot of that is from that foundational start that I received here at UNB. And like I say, I always love coming back to campus.
Yeah, me too. That's probably why I never left.
Yeah, I do.
Brooke, how about you?
Yeah, so the best part of UNB for me has been the opportunities that I've had. I can truly say that I feel like I didn't miss out on any of them.
I don't think so.
And the connections that I've made with faculty, and I feel those connections that I'll have forever, and I I truly feel that faculty reach out. They take a student-centered approach and are looking for opportunities for even past like alumni or students to connect them, and like you were saying with that student and research, and they're just looking for opportunities to enhance your learning. But in terms of opportunities, I've spoken a little bit about it, but the biggest one would be part of the Fredericton-Downtown Community Health Center, and being part of that family UNB brought that to me. I did an international exchange to Sweden, and I studied in France as well, in Paris for a month. Being a peer mentor over the past 3 years has been amazing, and I still remember this. You asked me, there was an international student coming in that missed their flight, and I had to go to the airport and pick them up, and just being able to bring them, and they were so nervous, and being able to walk into McLagan Hall with them and show them where residence is and help them load their bags into my car, just being a part of all of it. The opportunities were endless, and yeah.
It does sound like you've done a lot in your time, though. I don't even know how you fit all that in once you started talking about your international experiences. You must have stopped time for everyone else while you did those things. You fit a lot in.
I had to keep track of how much I asked of her, so I didn't overwhelm her too much. Our peer mentors are fabulous. Yeah, it's a good group.
Yeah. And Bev, you were here as a student. You came back as faculty. Can you talk to us a little bit about the best part for you?
Yeah, I didn't ever imagine I'd be back. I probably wasn't the best undergraduate student. Socialization might have been sort of important to me at that time. But really, and I probably wasn't a very engaged student in terms of nursing either. And so maybe that is a little bit of a reason why I have taken this on as, sort of a goal, because I would have gotten way more out of it. So how I came back to UNB actually was a nursing instructor who I would never have even imagined knew my name. And we were working together in the emergency room, and there was a opening for a pediatric instructor to start like 2 weeks later. And she told me to apply and try it, to which I did, and that I haven't left. And again, you talked about feeling young when you come onto campus. Like I really feel like my wrinkles disappear at the gates, right? Like they just fall off. But it is like students every single day are inspiring, they're exciting, and I'm like I said, I mentioned curriculum days. I'm coming from yesterday and the day before we had a panel of Indigenous students invited to share their experiences, their learning experiences, their contributions, and I'm telling you, it's positively, it's so exciting the work that we can do with the knowledge that they shared with us this week, and I'm excited for all of us. We're just going to do better.
Well, that's a fantastic way to end the conversation. Thank you to all of you for being with us today. I really enjoyed spending the last hour with you. And for our alumni who joined us, I hope that you enjoyed the conversation as well, maybe reminiscing a little bit about your own time as a nursing student and hearing a bit about how things have changed, but really the idea of that community, the support, the family within the faculty and here within the university is still the same. I do hope that one day, really soon, we can invite you back to campus. We love to see our nursing alumni come back to campus, visit McLagan Hall and maybe some of your other favorite haunts on campus, and that day's coming soon. If there were any questions that you would have asked today if you'd been able to be here in person, I do encourage you to send those to me at alumni@unb.ca. I'll do my best to answer the question. If I can't, I'll reach out to the Dean, Lorna Butler, or to Bev or another colleague in nursing to get an answer for you. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really enjoyed having this conversation. Have a great day.